Hey guys, if you want a super fast 40mm lens for your Sony camera, you just have not much of a choice. You can take a Voigtländer and adapted lens from Olympus and maybe a Canon lens. So you could of course go for 35mm, but if it's not from Voigtlander 2, it's going to be very heavy and very pricey. So I decided to buy a Voigtlander, but which one? Because I can adapt every lens I want on my full frame Sony A7III camera. I could use the Leica mount 40mm 1.4 Nokton. It's available in multi-coated, that's the one I got here. And you can get it in single coated, it's more for black and white photography. This lens is exceptionally small, even with the adapter on it. Without the adapter it looks like that. It's very tiny, very small. This lens is 40mm 1.4 and weighs 175 grams. The other choice is a native E-Mount lens. It's also 40mm and it's 1.2, just half a stop better. It's called the Nokton Aspherical. There you have it. That's the Nokton Aspherical 1.2. It's definitely bigger than the 1.4. It has a very smooth focus dial and a declickable aperture dial for all the video shooters. If you compare these in size, you really see a big difference. The weight of this lens is 420 grams, so more than double of this one. The Leica lens costs €549, official retail price. The E-Mount lens costs €1,099, retail price on the Voigtlander website. So I was thinking, can the half a stop faster native Sony lens be that much better to justify twice the price? So here we are in Lightroom. I've prepared some scenarios to test the, for me, relevant parameters of this lens. So we start with a flare and ghosting test. We start with a Voigtlander 40mm f1.2 on the left. I will call it the Sony, native Sony lens in the following, and we got the 40mm f1.4 Leica multi-coated lens. I will call it the Leica. We can see a big amount of flare around the sun on the Sony lens. On the Leica it's not that noticeable. Instead we got a big ghosting artifact at the right upper corner. Furthermore, there is a tint of magenta on the right next to the sun on the Sony lens. At f8 we still got the magenta tint. Flaring has improved little, maybe ghosting on the Leica lens still there. f11 still the same issues. We have additional sunbursts here on the Leica lens, and at f14 and f13 we still got the flare. The Leica lens performs definitely better in this case. f16, now the sunburst on the Leica lens escalates. Now I got the Sony lens on both sides. It's f18 and f22. The winner in this test is obviously the Leica lens because of the way better flare handling. In my test, the Sony lens handles ghosting better than the Leica lens. Be sure that this test is really not representative. In another environment you can get different results. Next test is a direct bokeh ball comparison. So on the left side we see the E-Mount lens, on the right side we see the Leica lens both with their highest aperture possible, 1.2 and 1.4. What we can see is a pretty even result with both lenses on their maximum. Of course, the E-Mount lens is a little bit brighter, which it should be because of the 1.2 aperture, but the bokeh bolts look pretty much the same. It has slightly onion rings, especially on these wider ones. Here you can see onion rings. On the right side of the picture there are cat eyes with little chromatic aberration. On the left side the same. So pretty much the same result for both lenses. Let's go to 1.4 to 1.4 comparison, and there you see in the right side is the E-Mount, on the left side is the Leica. So what you can see is the aperture blade of the E-Mount lens are visible now. On the left side still the same picture as before, so no aperture blades here. But if you look at this bokeh, it's pretty round and pretty smooth. You can see these cat eyes on the right and the left. Let's do a direct comparison, 1.8 to 1.8. Of course, now you can see the aperture blades on the Leica lens too. And the rest of the bokeh looks pretty much the same. So I don't see that much of a difference. Even the additional effects here are looking like one another, but on the side of the frame you can see slightly better bokeh on the E-Mount lens. Here, for example, this bokeh ball still looks round and circular in comparison to the mushy bokeh balls around here on the Leica lens. Same on the right side of the frame. So this is 1.8, this is 2.0. I can tell you it's the same, 2.8 to 2.8. Not big of a difference, and 4 very round, very circular bokeh balls on both lenses. So not a big difference. In addition to this scenario with the bokeh balls, we're going outside and trying to compare the real life bokeh. And what you can see, first of all, I want to put your attention to the sharpness. On the left side we got the E-Mount, on the right side we got the Leica lens. I put the focus on the lower third of this leaf and the tip. What you can say is it's not 100% sharp on both lenses. Now you see the biggest difference on both of these lenses. Look at the right corner here. The bokeh on the 1.2 is way smoother and creamier than the bokeh on the 1.4. As you can see here, it's pretty busy. Same in the upper right corner. You can see the bokeh very busy, really smooth in comparison on the 1.2. The same in this part of the picture. Now a direct comparison, 1.4 to 1.4. The E-Mount lens on the right side is way sharper now, but bokeh stays the same on f1.4 on both lenses. Pretty busy on the Leica and pretty creamy and smooth on the Sony lens. 1.8, sharpness good now on both lenses. Bokeh still the same. f.2, I can tell you it's the same on both lenses. Sharpness is very good. There's no big difference. That surprises me. But the bokeh, as expected, is a little busy. So, but now I want to put your attention on the bokeh now. At 2.8, the Leica lens starts to smoothen the bokeh. Now, as we can see, the difference has decreased heavily. So we got a bokeh which is pretty similar now. And if you want to use one of these lenses, just starting at 2.8, I could say it doesn't matter which one you use. f4 sharpness is very good on both lenses. Bokeh is now very much the same. You can definitely see bokeh balls around here on both lenses, and the aperture blade bokeh balls. It's not that smooth and creamy anymore. So I would say at 5.6 the Leica lens reaches its peak sharpness f8. Now we got peak sharpness at the E-Mount lens. At f11 the sharpness decreases of the Leica lens. The Sony lens still same sharpness, and in terms of bokeh you don't have that much bokeh anymore. You can have a look at the depth of field, and it's pretty much the same. You cannot see the car in the background. To conclude, sharpness is very good on both lenses. I would say the Sony lens is a little bit sharper in the low apertures as f13, so we definitely have a bokeh winner, and you will find a soft and creamy bokeh on the native Sony E-Mount lens. The next comparison is all about sharpness, starting at 1.2 on the E-Mount and 1.4 on the Leica lens. And my focus point is the face of this woman here. Well, what you see is the E-Mount lens is definitely sharper and more contrasted than the Leica lens. You can see it's a little mushy and a little bit unsharp. Look at this logo here. It's all on one focus level around here. So we go in the corner, pretty decent. A little bit of distortion on the E-Mount lens. We got pretty straight line here. There's no camera adjustments made on these pictures. The sharpness on the corners is not that bad with both lenses, pretty much the same level, when not better on the Leica lens. But this is f2 against f4. Now we got f4 against f4. Now we have the Sony lens on the right side and the Leica lens on the left side, and the sharpness definitely increased in the corners. The sharpness in the middle of the frame still very good on the Sony lens in comparison to a mushy, slightly unsharp picture, and not that contrasted on the Leica lens. The corner on the right side also very sharp on the E-Mount and a little bit unsharp on the Leica lens. f1.8, same problem here, same problem in the corner. f2. Now the Leica lens improves. We got more contrast, not that mushy image we had before, and I think the corner performance gets a little bit better. f2.8. Now the Leica lens has improved very much. The sharpness on both lenses now still not on par, but very close now. The corner performance looks pretty good now on both lenses, even though the Leica lens is a little bit behind. On f4 the corner sharpness on both lenses very good, and then the sharpness in the center is very similar and very good on both lenses now. So now the difference is nearly gone and we got pretty similar results. Same on f5. Look at the structure here, you can see it way better. The contrast is very good on both lenses. f8 now. Very good sharpness, even though when you look very close to the letters around here, they are definitely sharper on the Sony lens. But the center sharpness is very good on both lenses. There is not a big difference. And f11, still very good results. You don't have big improvements now. Both lenses nearly on the same level of sharpness. Another test of landscape. Maybe you don't want to do landscape with this lens, but you can. Maybe you will be in a situation that you have to use this lens for landscape. And so I started with f4. I put the focus on this tower over here in the middle of the frame. It pretty much looks the same on both lenses. There is not a big difference in sharpness, so you always have to think about, I got the A7III, it's a 24 megapixel sensor. If you get the A7R3 with 42 megapixels, or the A7R4 with 61 megapixels. There could be a difference. The corner performance is worse on the Leica lens. You see a mushy picture around here, and around here in the corners it's not that good. The center is very good. As you can see right here, there is not a big difference. f8, same sharpness, no chromatic aberration, even in the corners. It looks pretty decent, even though I would expect chromatic aberration on low apertures, but I won't do landscape with an f1.2. So now corner performance looks pretty much on the same level. Yeah, maybe there was a micro movement here, I don't know, sometime the wind blew a bit. Let's go to f11. Same good sharpness on in the mid frame, and very good sharpness in the corners. Maybe it's a little more mushy around here on the Sony lens. Let's do one more comparison. I took the same photo with a Sony 24-70 f2.8 G Master, and let's have a look at the sharpness differences around here. And what you can see is there is not a big difference in sharpness when you go to the corners. You see kind of a brighter picture. It's a little bit brighter, but not that much sharper. The comparison to the G Master lens. So our next test compares distortion. I've put this tower in focus. It's on the edge of the frame in the left corner, and what you can see is distortion on the Sony lens is definitely a bit worse than on the Leica lens. A better example you can see here. Look at the slight bend over here, and in this case it's pretty straight. We got a winner. Distortion is better on the Leica lens. Now let's conclude with our last test. It's about vignetting. Vignetting is very prominent on the Leica. You can see here on the right side, you can see a big amount of vignetting at f1.4, and the Sony lens on the highest aperture possible, 1.2. So pretty well corrected lens. Vignetting is not a problem here. Let's go to 1.4 to 1.4. Now it has changed. Sony is on the right side, Leica on the left side. You still can see the vignetting of the Leica lens, but the Sony still has improved a little bit, and there is a slight bit of vignetting. But if you're going to correct your picture with the camera profile in Lightroom, it will be gone completely. f1.8, still vignetting on the Leica, just a slight bit of vignetting on the Sony lens left, that's not really mentionable. f.2, still vignetting on the Leica. f2.8, still vignetting, but improving. And at f4 it's nearly gone, so we have no vignetting at f.4. The picture you're seeing now is recorded with the Leica. Hopefully nailed it due to the lack of autofocus on his lens and the lack of a proper external monitor. This is 1.4, and you can decide if you think this is a nice bokeh or not. Same test with the native Sony 1.2 lens on 1.2. So is the bokeh better, or is it the same, or is it worse? How's the sharpness? How do you like it? Let's try put them side by side, and maybe we'll see a difference in direct comparison. Difficult, right? That's what I thought. Let's come to a conclusion. We've seen both lenses perform pretty well in really different scenarios. The Sony lens, pretty sharp lens, no vignetting, a little bit of flare, a little bit of ghosting and magenta tint, not much of chromatic aberration, although I didn't properly test that. A little bit of distortion, worse than the Leica lens. Bokeh, very smooth, very creamy, wide open at 1.2. Great bokeh balls, a beautiful shallow depth of field, but it's really difficult to focus a 1.2 lens manually. It takes some practice. Leica lens, really small, really sharp, especially in comparison to the bigger brother. Sharpness is not as good as the 1.2, but sharpness improves at 2.8 and corner sharpness improves at 4 and reaches its maximum at about 8. In comparison to that, sharpness here is very good at 1.4, is very good at 5.6 till 13. Better flare resistance, some ghosting artifacts. It has big problems with vignetting until f4. Busy bokeh at f1.4. So you have to like it. I don't like it that much because I love the creamy bokeh, but it is nice bokeh. It's just a little bit busy. Starting at 2.8, you won't see that big of a difference in the bokeh anymore. You can see a big difference in bokeh above 2.8 till 1.2 if it's usable for you. Color rendering on both lenses is pretty much the same. There's not a big difference. Maybe the Sony lens is a bit more contrasted and a little more saturated. You can adjust it in post on the Leica lens too. I don't think that's a big difference. The question is it worth twice the price? Actually, I don't know. If it's really important for you that you have this creamy bokeh, it's worth twice the price. If you think, okay, maybe the bokeh on the Leica lens is well enough for me, it's not worth twice the price. If you're doing much landscape with the 40mm lens, it's not worth twice the price because they're pretty much on the same level. If it's important for you to have electrical contacts so that you have active data and that your camera knows where you focus, then take the Sony E-Mount lens. If you want the lightest lens possible for 40mm, take the Leica lens. It's definitely very light in comparison. This is pretty heavy. It's light in comparison to the autofocus lenses, but it's very heavy in comparison to this one. It's more than double the weight, and you have to consider one more and very important thing. With the Leica lens, you can focus on a distance of 70 centimeters. Doesn't sound much, but I really have problems going close to my subject. It really is a problem because most of the time I'm too close to my subject, and if you want to take the picture that close, you have no chance. You have to crop it then in post-production, but you don't want that, and you don't want to lose your picture. You want to do it perfectly. In some cases, I'm not able to take the picture as I wanted to. On the Sony lens, this is exactly half the minimal focusing distance. So it's 32 centimeters, and you can go close to your subject and take the picture as you want to. I think that's one of the biggest advantages of the Sony E-Mount native lens. Which one to keep? I really don't know. Let me think about it a little longer, and I will take more pictures and more video with these lenses, and then I'll decide which one I'm going to keep. Do you have a favorite? Do you know which one you would keep? Maybe you're able to convince me. Did you see anything in the pictures I showed you which I didn't notice? Please leave a comment, tell me about your opinion. See you in the next video.